Welcome back to... Sorry about that. False start. Welcome back to... Shit. Sorry. False start. Welcome back, banging... Son of a bitch. Illegal procedure. Welcome back to Can... Oh my God. Illegal procedure again. Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. There we go. I am Ross Bolen. What the fuck was that? The Texans lost to the Minnesota Vikings 34-7 in Minnesota in what was a depressing and shameful performance all around. And when I say all around, I mean that literally. Everyone sucked ass. And I mean that metaphorically. It was Minnesota's largest margin of victory in 5 years. Sad. Simply put, the Texans looked soft, unprepared, and outmatched in every aspect of the game. The Vikings were more physical in the trenches. They were more physical in the secondary. They looked bigger. They looked stronger. They looked faster. The Texans looked like they expected the Vikings to come out and roll over, like they thought someone was just going to hand them another AFC South divisional championship, like the AFC Championship game is their birthright. They look like a team that bought into all the offseason hype. D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick and Matt Burke all got outcoached. Flat out outcoached. The Vikings had a better scheme offensively. They had a better scheme defensively. They were better in every facet of the game. And look, just to be clear, I'm not some angry, rage-baiting fan who can't handle one loss in a league where even the best teams flop once in a while. But this shit show, coupled with the first 2 games of the season, which were wins, has me admittedly concerned. Mostly because of the lack of discipline this team has repeatedly displayed. Last week against the Bears, they committed 12 penalties. Remember that? 12 penalties for 115 yards. Not great. Still got a win, but the Bears are kind of shit. This week against the Vikings, they committed 11 penalties for 88 yards. A 1 penalty improvement. And yet it didn't feel that way. At one point against the Vikings, the Texans were in field goal range. You remember that? Then they committed pre-snap penalties on 4 consecutive plays, which I referenced in the intro of today's show. If you didn't catch that, it's completely unacceptable. There's no excuse for that. I turned away from my TV in shame and considered watching something else instead. I was thankful when the Astros game started just after 1 p.m. Central Time, so that at least I could turn my attention, part of my attention, to that in an effort to maintain my sanity, which, if you watch the Astros game, didn't work out too well either. Offensive line. Atrocious. That's the word. That's the word I'd choose to describe our offensive line currently. C.J. Stroud was sacked 4 times. Jonathan Grenard had 3 of those sacks. Remember Grenard? You remember Grenard. He was on our team last year. That Jonathan Grenard. The one that we let go and then picked up Danielle Hunter instead. He had 3 sacks, Jonathan Grenard. It was tough to watch. Tight ends can't block for shit. Rookie Kade Stover got absolutely steamrolled. Offensive line, not good. But the biggest problem on the offensive line probably goes without saying, doesn't it? You know what I'm going to say. Everyone knows his name. Everyone knows he is this team's biggest single, solitary, individual issue right now. Sadly, that is the case. Laremy Tunsil had 5 penalties in the first half alone. 5 penalties in the first half by himself. He finished the game with 3 false starts and 3 illegal procedure penalties, which puts him at an astonishing 9 penalties. You can count them out on my fingers. 9 penalties through 3 games, including 4 third down false starts. Absolute drive killers. Another false start to make a field goal attempt 59 yards. First down false start. Third down illegal formation to wipe out a first down. A third down illegal formation which was declined. And a third down illegal formation to wipe out a first down. So it's not just that he's committing god-awful, inexcusable, pathetic penalties. It's that he's committing them, in most cases, at the worst possible fucking time. This season, Laremy Tunsil's salary cap charge to the Texans is $25,855,882, and he is rapidly approaching a point of unplayability where his penalty-prone performance outweighs any hypothetical pass rush blocking he theoretically provides. Simply put, Laremy Tunsil, who has a reputation, already had a reputation for pre-snap penalties, whose reputation precedes him, still played shockingly poorly. You would think that if you're a guy who is having this very specific issue, that you would fucking focus on fixing that. But no, he's somehow getting worse, which I don't even understand how that's fucking possible. As a result of all those penalties, not just Tunsil's, but he had nearly half the team's penalties. So yeah, as a result of all those penalties, here is a list of the snaps the offense faced. 1st and 20, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 19, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 16, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 31. Not gonna win a lot of football games putting yourself behind the 8 ball that often, are you, folks? It's just not gonna happen. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Which felt like it was the problem last week, and I said I really hope that they would focus on that in practice and come out looking sharp against a Vikings team that we knew was going to be a challenge. They've looked good so far this season. It's a weird league, so everybody was saying, like, well, let's give the Vikings one more week before we declare them legit. Well, now they're being declared legit, and playing in Minnesota, not easy. Very loud stadium, very loud crowd. They've got a giant fucking Viking horn up there that they blow into and shit. You got to be ready, and they weren't even close to ready. How the fuck did that happen? And perhaps the most infuriating thing about all the offensive penalties was Tunsil's response when asked about the false starts by the media in the postgame. Here is your Pro Bowl left tackle, Laremy Tunsil, and I quote, "False starts. I want people to understand. We all have to be on the same communication. I'll take accountability because they're calling my name, but it takes all of us." What the fuck? Where's the accountability there? Where's the ownership there? What the fuck do you mean it takes all of us? Dog, we see you jumping early. What do you do? We can see you not on the line and not checking with the referee, causing illegal procedure. We are watching the games. They're televised and filmed with high-definition cameras from a plethora of angles, and you're right there, jumping the gun on every single one. We see you. Yes, it takes all of us. And you are one of us. And you are the biggest fucking problem on the line. How do you come out and not own that in the postgame? As what is supposed to be a veteran leader, he has a captain's patch on his fucking uniform. What is this guy thinking? We are now in a place where I understand the face mask bong that this dude was hitting before the NFL draft. Now I see it. But for the amount of money this man is paid, for the amount of responsibility he has asked for, this is unacceptable and sad and so fucking frustrating. And we don't have anybody else to put in, or we clearly would at this point, because holy shit, he's a drive killer. That's who Laremy Tunsil is now. And everybody's like, oh, no, well, he's great at pass protection. Who the fuck cares? We scored 7 points. That's... What? Moving on. CJ Stroud got outplayed by Sam Darnold. That's some shit I never thought I'd have to say, but it's true. CJ was 20 for 31 for 215 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. 2 costly interceptions. Sam Darnold threw 4 fucking touchdowns. Sam Darnold. Going into this game, my dumbass was like, oh man, our defense is going to eat Sam Darnold up. No. Not. And to be fair, CJ made some great plays, a few of them, but all of them were wiped out by offensive penalties because of course they fucking were. Every time he did something where I was like, yes, momentum. It's like, oh, there's a flag down. Oh, look at that. Oh, by the way, when Davis Mills comes in and looks more sharp than CJ Stroud, we have a problem. And I don't care that it was garbage time. And it was garbage time, but the fuck was that? Davis Mills had a higher QB rating than CJ Stroud. And he just looked like he was able to get the ball around the field more, which was fucking crazy to me. And it made me feel even worse about this entire experience, all of which was pretty goddamn negative. We badly missed Joe Mixon. Badly. Cam Akers ain't it. Cam Akers had 21 yards. 21 yards rushing on 9 attempts. I don't even know how much to blame Cam because the offensive line got absolutely owned all day by the Vikings defensive line. When they weren't committing pre-snap penalties, they were just getting fucking shoved around. They looked like a JV team getting reps against the varsity, getting bent over a barrel and shown the 50 states. 14 rushes for 38 yards as a team. Bad. The offense was atrocious. 0 first half points. 1 touchdown for the game total. Even Fairbairn missed a field goal. We were just not. It's like we didn't even show up. Didn't even show up for this one. It was pathetic with a John McClain capital P. Stephon Diggs had 10 receptions for 94 yards. That was probably the high point of the offense from a statistics standpoint. 10 receptions for Diggs. 94 yards. Almost got to the 100 mark. Just can't quite get open a little further downfield. Tank Dell finally got a little more involved in the offense with 5 receptions for 62 yards and would have had more if not for offensive penalties wiping out big gains. Just a shit show, man. A total shit show. And where's the defense at, by the way? What happened to Swarm? Hashtag Swarm. I thought we were swarming. What happened to Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter being one of the most fearsome combinations in the league? They didn't do much. I think Will Anderson eventually got a sack, but they didn't disrupt the offense of the Minnesota Vikings very often. What happened to Derek Stingley Jr. being one of the best corners in football? D'Amico is meant to be a defensive-minded head coach. He played defense. He was a defensive coordinator for the Niners, and yet our defense, lackluster. Really, in every game so far. Had some explosive moments earlier on in the first 2 games, but this one, there was just nothing going. It was fucking Sam Darnold, man. And no disrespect to him, he looked quite sharp. I just thought that we were good enough to prevent that from being the case, and we are not. We are not. So where do the Texans go from here? Obviously, this has to serve as a wake-up call. Last season was one of the best seasons in franchise history, considering we were rolling in with a rookie head coach, with a rookie quarterback, with a rookie anchor to our defense and Will Anderson Jr., not really knowing what to make of our receiving core at that point before Nico Collins cemented himself as one of the best receivers in the league, who, by the way, was fairly quiet yesterday by his standards. So last year was this huge step forward, obviously. In the offseason, we all felt like we had put ourselves in a position to be one of the 3 to 5 best teams in football, right? And that we would build from where we were last year. And that's my biggest concern so far through 3 games. It doesn't feel like we took steps forward. If anything, we've taken steps backward. We knew that defenses were going to be able to scheme more effectively against CJ Stroud in year 2. Everybody knew that was coming. We thought Bobby Slowick would be ready for that. He didn't look ready for anything yesterday. Some of the play calling was like, what the fuck? And once you've realized that the line can't... See, here's the problem with this team right now. You don't even know who to blame. Who do you blame? Whose fault was that? It's kind of everybody. Because, like, you could blame Slowick for the play calling, but, like, what the fuck's he supposed to do about the offensive line committing as many false starts as they did? What's he supposed to do about the drive-killing penalties? That's not a play call issue. That's a discipline issue on the part of the players. Do you blame C.J. Stroud for not getting out of the pocket more quickly or spreading the ball around the field? I don't know. Is it the receiver's fault for not getting open? The tight ends for blocking like shit? The fact that our RB1 and Joe Mixon is injured and we're rolling Cam Akers out there? Is it Cam Akers? None of it worked. None of it was good. So it was kind of everybody's fault. And yeah, man, this is a league where sometimes you got to turn the page and just fucking throw that game away and move forward. And don't get me wrong, they can come out next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who will be playing on a short week because they're on Monday Night Football tonight. They're 0-2 currently. They can come out next week against the Jags, stomp out the Jags, and alleviate a lot of the concerns that have developed over the first 3 games. But just being honest with where I'm at currently, it doesn't super feel like that's fucking going to happen. Because these issues that we're having are indicative of a mental focus problem. Like I said, discipline has been the biggest issue through 3 games. Discipline is not really something you can like flip a switch on. That's like built over time. And you got to trust each other. And you got to have accountability for your own actions, which currently does not seem like the case, certainly not with Laremy Tunsil. So this was a really frustrating game to watch. It was really, really hard to watch. And I feel like not a single Texans fan watching this game could have possibly felt any other way but frustrated and let down and disappointed and kind of disgusted when it was all said and done. Brutal game. So they got to figure it out. They got to turn this shit around quick because, like we said, the schedule this year, it isn't a cakewalk. There's not a bunch of automatic wins on the schedule. We got Vikings this week. I'm sorry, we had Vikings last week. We have Jacksonville Jaguars this week, Buffalo Bills after that, New England Patriots after that, Green Bay Packers after that, back to the Colts, then the Jets, then the Lions, the Cowboys, the Titans who suck, the Jags who suck, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Ravens. I mean, like, you got to stack wins when you have the chance, and maybe this week just wasn't one of those chances. Like, the Vikings looked like they had their shit together. We did not. Maybe it was as simple as that. Or maybe we're not as talented as we thought we were. But if you don't think the doubt has started to creep in somewhat after what we've seen through 3 weeks, I think you're fucking crazy because that's a 29-27 win against the Colts, who are frankly not that good, and their run defense is atrocious. That's a 2-point win against the Colts. That's a 19-13 win, still a 1-score game against the Bears, who are dog shit. The Bears lost to the Colts 16-21 on Sunday. And then a 7-34 loss to the Vikings. That's our 3 games so far. So there's not a lot to be impressed about so far. CJ has not had one of these huge explosive games where he looks like the greatest quarterback in the league yet, which he had several of last season. This was Tank Dell's first game really even getting involved in the offense in a meaningful way, and it fucking didn't matter. Stephon Diggs has been, like I said, effective, but effective within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's not getting open downfield. 10 receptions, he still didn't crack 100 yards receiving. The offensive line is garbage. The defensive line has not been that impressive. The corners haven't been that impressive. The safeties certainly haven't been that impressive. The one thing I will say, we didn't allow Sam Darnold to burn us for any 50-plus yard plays, which is huge. Fairbairn missing that field goal, I was like, oh yeah, the wheels are coming off the fucking train or the bus or the bike or whatever. All in all, bad. Bad. Now, with what we saw last year, I think all of us have a certain amount of expectation for this team. Maybe we were a little overzealous. Maybe we weren't. There's still plenty of time for them to show us one way or the other. We have 14 football games left in the regular season, so there's a lot of football to be left to be played. I'm not trying to be like the ultimate downer, but also I think one thing that's important when you have a team is that you're real about where you're at. You're realistic about where you are currently and where you need to be. And I just hope that these dudes know they are not even close to where they need to be. Not if they want to do shit like we were talking about in the offseason. Compete for an AFC championship. Make our first Super Bowl run. Do something really special. When they went out and got Stephon Diggs, that felt like a pushing your chips into the middle of the table moment. An all-in moment. But through 3 games, they don't feel all in. And they feel like they're going to fall short of their goals if they don't get this shit turned around and quickly. Because right now, boy, it's been tough to watch. Not great football. So we'll see what happens. They have an opportunity, like I said, on Sunday against the Jags at noon to start to right the ship. Get another win and be 3-1, which is a fine start to the season if they can get there. A fine start. You lose to the Jags next week, the red flags are going to be flying with the yellow ones, which are covering the fucking field at this point. I'm keeping the faith. After this podcast in which I have unleashed all my negativity, I will move back to being positive, move forward with my life, focus on next week, and do what I can personally to prepare for this show so that we don't have any false starts during the intro. Hopefully, our Houston Texans will take care of their shit in practice all week long. Let's talk about the Astros for a second on the way out. By and large, the Astros handled their business in their 4-game series against the Angels, winning the first 3 games, but dropping the series closer in sad fashion to cap off a terrible Sunday of Houston sports when Josh Hader allowed 4 runs on 3 hits and 2 walks while recording 1 out on Sunday. Blew a save, took the loss against the Angels. He entered it was 6-5 in the 9th inning. Could not get the win. And that was an all-around terrible Sunday for Houston sports. But the Astros are still in a great spot. Magic numbers 2. They clinched the division with a win and a Mariners loss tonight. When you know it, they're playing the Mariners. So if we win, we clinch the division tonight. Hunter Brown on the bump at home. I'm guessing. I'm tired. It's Monday morning, and yesterday sucked. So I'm guessing if we win any of these 3 games against the Mariners, we clinch the division. It's a 3-game series against the Mariners. Then we have a 3-game series against Cleveland that starts on Friday. We have Thursday off. Those are the final 2 series of the regular season. This is fucking it. And there are a lot of questions to be answered about the Astros right now currently as well. Unfortunately, one huge one got introduced during yesterday's game against the Angels because Yordan Alvarez slid into second awkwardly, kind of just fucking slid on his own leg. Knee contusion is what they're calling it. He's getting it checked out today. I'm seeing different quotes from different sources. The Astros dodged a bullet with Yordan Alvarez, but also other stuff like he's extremely sore. It doesn't look good. Not great when you only have 6 games left in the season before the postseason and when you're trying to clinch the division and close this thing out. So there's a big question mark. Will Yordan Alvarez be okay? You have to hope, obviously, that he's fine. And then there's a big question mark in the pitching department with Justin Verlander, who again against the Angels looked relatively ineffective. Like it did 4 1/3 inning, I think he pitched. We got the win in that game, but like JV has continued to look extremely human. And when they interviewed him after first of all, when he was walking off the mound, he got a standing ovation from the fans at Minute Maid who were aware that that might be it. I was just total transparency. I was not one of those people who was aware that might not be it, or that might be it for him, that he might not pitch again. Now, he is slated for one more start against Cleveland in that final series of the regular season. My assumption is whether or not he starts in that game will come down to how things go with all of the games preceding it. And I guess there's a chance that maybe he comes out and just has his spark back and looks good against the Guardians, and then he's on the playoff roster. But like I was saying last week and the week before, I thought everybody who was saying, "Oh, Verlander's not going to be in the playoff rotation," was fucking crazy. But now I see it. The doubt has crept in, and as a result of the way he has addressed some of these things with the media, like they've point blank asked him, like, "Hey man, are you aware that there's a bit of buzz around whether or not you'll even be in the playoff rotation?" And he flat out acknowledged it. 5 years ago, you would expect a guy like Verlander to, if he's asked that question, fucking freak out on the reporter defending his, absolute right to be in that rotation. But he even knows, like, he's not all the way back. I'm seeing quotes around him, like they rushed him back from injury. He's older now, blah, 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 yada, yada. Like, I'm very confused about what's going to happen with Justin Verlander. There's never much clarity with this team in the media, frankly, if you haven't figured that out at this point. Like, with the Yordan Alvarez thing and the overuse of discomfort and the lack of clarity around, like, the Verlander situation currently, I don't know what's going to happen. I will say it has been a thing of beauty to watch Dana Brown piece together a rotation that might not even need Justin Verlander. It's also been extremely sad watching the once great Justin Verlander slide into sort of irrelevancy so quickly, right? Like, he's struggled off and on over the past couple years, if we're being real, but like to see him get to a place where he's maybe not even safe to put in the playoff rotation, it feels like it happened so fast. I feel older as a result and more inadequate as a result. It's just kind of a fucked up experience that, nobody wants to have with one of their favorite players of all time, and a guy that guided us to 2 championships and has served as a veteran leader of our pitching staff the entire time he's been here since 2017 or 16. Yeah, man. I feel sad about where the Astros are at as I sit here. What do we? I got like 85 wins, still a chance to clinch the division. But none of that really means anything if you don't feel confident going into the playoffs. And with a big question mark next to Yordan Alvarez and his health, and a big question mark next to whether Verlander will even be involved, fortunately, we have a lot of other pitchers who are doing very, very well, including Hunter Brown, who is starting tonight with the chance to clinch the division and put us in the playoffs against the Mariners. But yeah, that was a fucked up Sunday. That was tough, man. I hope everybody listening and watching has a better Monday than they did Sunday, because it was one of those things where I got in bed last night and I was in kind of a bad mood, and I was like, I have failed to recover emotionally from the sports ball, from watching the sports, which always makes me feel like a real idiot as a sports fan, because this is not the most consequential thing in life, obviously, but we get so invested, and I am so invested in these 2 teams in particular, in the Astros and Texans currently. The Rockets are more in a place where I'm like, let's see what happens. But these 2, I'm like, we should be winning fucking championships, and now I feel shitty about both. So hopefully good news about Yordan Alvarez. Hopefully the Astros close the window on the Mariners tonight. Get the division championship for the seventh consecutive time in as many full seasons, not counting fucking 2020, because who does? But boy, yeah, we could use some positivity. So hopefully we get some good things happening over the next few days, and then against the Jaguars next week, because we need it. I need it. I don't like coming in here and doing this, yelling and losing my mind, derailing live with a camera pointed at me, microphone in my face. It's a fucked up feeling. Holler at me on social media at WR Bolen. Follow our show everywhere at Banging the Can. Remember, every single episode of our show is available on the podcast platforms and then in full video on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment, ask a question, argue with a take of mine that you disagree with. Whatever you need to do. If you're on Apple Podcasts right now, hit the 5 stars, leave a little review. If you're on Spotify, give us 5 stars as well. On that note, please share the most unapologetic show in Houston sports with your friends and family. Support our sponsors. Today's sponsor it's me. I am once again today's sponsor. Check out Bolen Media at bolenmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolen Podcast, available wherever you get Banging the Can. If you're a TV and film fan, we've got a show for you that I host with another Houstonian, Mr. Barrett Dudley, who's been one of my best friends for over 20 years. Oysters, Clams, and Cockles is the title of the show, and right now we are beginning coverage of The Penguin, which just started on HBO last Thursday. Episode 2 will air this upcoming Sunday. If If you want to watch the Penguin with us, check out Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, also available wherever you get Banging the Can. If you're an F1 fan, check out Formula Bone, hosted by Jared J-Bone Borislow, bringing you the latest and greatest in the world of F1. It's the finest American-made F1 content in the world, provided by Formula Bone. YouTube.com/@FormulaBone, where he has over 150,000 subscribers. You can also listen to Formula Bone on the podcast platforms and follow @Formula Bone on all the social medias as well. I'm Ross Bolen. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram @WRBolen. Holler at me on either of those. I'm always down to talk Houston sports. I'll be back next week. Until next time, H-Town. Stay down.